name is Mars, like the planet, and this is Housewarming. Me and my partner have just purchased our very first home, so if you're interested in design, homemaking, and figuring it all out, make sure you subscribe. Today we're gonna go through my house and go through my entire home and look at my entire plant collection. Now, I have been a plant and houseplant owner for over 5 years now, and I kind of think that my plant needs or wants are kind of changing a little bit. I used to be that person that was always trying to save money, getting the tiniest itty bitty little plant for like $1 and hoping that it would grow to a full grown mature plant and thinking I was saving money. But now that I'm in a home, I really want plants that are going to make an impact. So I am more investing, I guess, into plants that are more mature. So I'm kind of getting rid of the plants that I'm not liking anymore. I'm kind of getting rid of the plants that are too small, that are really not filling the space. Now, I do think there is a space for, you know, little small, cute little plants, but it's not in this space. So I have kind of cleared out a lot of my plants that were in my previous houseplant tour. So I'm just gonna go around, we're gonna look at all of the plants. Most of my plants are super easy to care for. I'm gonna show you where they are as far as light requirements and watering requirements, but we're just gonna hop right in. So let's get started. I have my coffee, I hope you have yours. Let's get into it. So right now we are at the front of my house. It is a huge west facing window, and we're gonna pop into the kitchen. So in the kitchen, I really don't have a lot of room for a lot of houseplants just because it's the kitchen and I really don't like plants where I'm cooking my food and it's really not a bright spot. So I do have this ledge right here that I'm able to put plant cuttings in. Now, like I said, this is a west facing window and these are all of my propagations. I have made a previous video if you're interested in getting into propagating plants, but all I do is I take a cutting from the mother plant, and the mother plant is just the bigger plant. Once you take a cutting, it's considered a baby. And I've collected these jars just over time. You can see one is from Texas, one is from Trinity Cider, which is in Dallas. A lot of them I have gotten from Mexican restaurants, which give you these vintage looking jars right here, and I just save them because I love the shape of them. I love the way that they look, and I just put plant cuttings in him. I have a lot of pothos cuttings because they are super easy to propagate. I have this marble queen pothos cutting. I have a philodendron, which I don't know, philodendrons are not great for propagating. They really do not do well because I think their stems are just too thin and they're just not good for propagating. But I stuck this one in here just to see what it's doing, and obviously it's doing nothing. So I think I might take that one out soon. This one is another pothos cutting. This is one of my scindapsus cuttings. This is an arrowhead plant, which honestly rooted in very, very nicely. You can see the roots all down there. This is my Philodendron Brazil cutting and my Cebu pothos cutting and this other pothos cutting right here. So this is just an easy way to display my cuttings on the window, and I have something nice to look at while I'm cooking. So moving back into our dining room, like I said, this is a west facing window, but I have a couple of new plants up here. Up here, you can see that this corner is kind of dark, and I was kind of struggling on what to put here, but I decided on a pothos. Like I said, I am investing more into mature plants. So you can see that this plant is a little bit bigger than a normal pothos you might get from Walmart or something. I got this from a plant store. I paid about $17 for it because it was actually on sale, but I think it would be a great addition to this corner. Pothos are a super easy quintessential plant, and I have a ton of them in my home just because they are no fuss. They're absolutely so easy to find anywhere, and they grow like weeds, honestly. And like I said, I have it right here in front of this west facing window, so I do think it will do well up here. Over here on the other side of the cabinet, I have a plant that I think honestly belongs outside. I mean, all house plants are outside plants, but I do think this actually goes better in an outdoor setting. But this is a begonia that I actually got as a Christmas present. I'm just sitting it up here because it was very, very wilted and not healthy when I got it. So I just repotted it. I gave it a lot of water. So I'm kind of just nursing it back to health right now. And then I'm going to decide what I want to do with it. So moving from those plants up there, let's move over to our stairs. So right at the landing of our stairs, we have a peace lily. Peace lilies are super easy to take care of. You can see how far away it is from this west facing window, and it is still doing well. But peace lilies need a lot of water. They are going to wilt the second that they need water. So if you are not good with consistently watering your house plants, I would not get a peace lily. But if you are a person that loves to baby your houseplants, you love to water them and take care of them all the time, I would say a peace lily is the plant for you just because they droop immediately when they need water. But I actually got this peace lily as well as a second one from my grandmother's funeral back in July. So this one is super special to me. Moving down off of my stairs and into the living room, we have a couple of plants in here. I have two north-facing windows as well as an east-facing window. So right here next to this north-facing window, I have a scindapsus. This is a Silverian scindapsus, I think. But once again, these are one of my favorite houseplants just because the color is so different. If you were wanting to go past that Kelly green color in plants and go more for a silvery, grayish, bluish color, these are super easy to take care of. You can see it's in a north-facing window and doing very well. And it honestly just pushed out a new leaf for me. And I can tell how healthy the plants are based on the leaf size. You can see, look how big this leaf is compared to the other leaf it just put out. You see how small this leaf is compared to how big this one is? That means it is doing super healthy. If you see that your vining plants have very, very tiny leaves at the bottom, that means they're not really liking the spot that they're in. But I think this plant is doing super well. It's pushing a lot of new growth. This one actually propagates really, really well. I did take a propagation right here. I put it in one of those glass jars in front of my kitchen window, and then I put it right back in the soil, and it's doing super well. So this is one of my favorites just because of the color. Moving over here to our TV, excuse the mess from our puppy, I have my one of very many philodendrons. My philodendrons are one of those quintessential houseplants that are super easy just because they are very similar to pothos plants. You can see that this one is winding its way all the way across our TV, but I will say if you want your philodendrons to vine out this way, you're going to need to give them more light. This one is just sitting over here because of our Christmas decorations. Normally this one goes onto our mantle, which is over here next to this east-facing window, so it does get a lot of bright morning light. But for right now, during the holidays, it is over here. Philodendrons, once again, are super easy to take care of. They do not require a lot of water, a lot of fuss. I will say that the only downside is that they are not good for propagations. I have never been able to successfully propagate a philodendron. You can see that their vines are super, super thin. So moving on from our TV and our north-facing window, we're gonna move closer to our east-facing window. So right here, you can see how far away it is from our east-facing window. Right here is our Cebu pothos. And this one is a great plant to have if you were looking for something a little bit different from a typical pothos plant. This Cebu pothos is very similar in color to the scindapsus. It has that grayish, bluish, silvery tint to its leaves, and you can see his leaves are very cylindrical. This one I've actually been able to propagate, even though that the vines are super thin. I've been able to propagate it very, very easily, but this one is obviously very happy here because it is trailing all the way down. We do also have a problem with our puppy coming and biting the leaves at the bottom just because they are trailing down. So it kind of looks like a fun toy for him, but we obviously correct him a lot because I am not completely sure if they're toxic to plants, but I obviously do not want my puppy eating my houseplants or anything like that. But this one is super vocal as well when it needs water. It'll definitely tell you because it'll start to wilt down. I just previously repotted this plant in a previous video. I will say that one downside is that it can get tangled up very, very easily. These vines are super thin, so they're almost like strands of hair, so they get wrapped around each other very easily, so be careful when you are moving it. In front of our east-facing window, we have this Monstera plant. This is another plant that I got that was very mature when I bought it from Home Depot, and I just have it on this stool right here. If you're looking for a way to elevate your plants, think about getting a stool, a chair, a pillar. You can find them easily at Goodwill. But I have this one directly in front of an east-facing window. I have not propagated it yet, but they are super easy to propagate. You would just take a cutting from a node right here. But once again, she is very vocal when she needs water. She will start to wilt, and I'll just give her some water. I love the fenestrations in the leaves, and she has pushed a ton of new leaves for me. Down here by our fireplace, still in front of the east-facing window, is an alocasia poly. I don't recommend this plant at all. This plant was doing so well last year, and it went into dormancy over the winter time, and the leaves died off, which I thought was pretty normal for it to go into dormancy. But you can see it still only has 2 leaves. This entire year, it looks just like this. Whether I water it, whether I neglect it, it looks just like this the entire time. It has not pushed any new growth in months. And last year it was pushing a new leaf so often. It has been through the spring, summer, and fall, and it has looked just like this. Alocasia polys are also very prone to spider mites, which means that you can look on your leaves and see almost like a white powdery dots all over your plants. And those are little spider mites, and you have to use neem oil on a little cotton ball to get them off. So I just don't recommend alocasias. I just think they're way too finicky for the price that you're paying for them. I just don't recommend them. Moving over here, I have my second peace lily, and next to it, I have my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. I just repotted this onto a bigger pot and a taller stake. This was a plant that I was so happy to find because I got it for just $9 at the farmer's market. And this was in the middle of the craze around this plant. These plants were going for $40 just for a cutting. They were super sought after, but I found one and I snagged it up, and it has grown tremendously. Every single 2 weeks or so, it is pushing out a new leaf. It also definitely does well with propagating, but I love this plant. I love the fenestrations on the leaves. It is also called a mini Monstera, even though they are not related. You can see that the leaves look very similar to a Monstera, but this is one of my favorite plants, and I think they are super easy to take care of. It is doing well in front of this north facing window, and the east facing window is right over here, but I haven't had to move it or anything like that. I just make sure that I do not overwater it. It started to yellow a little bit, and then I knew I was giving it a little bit too much water. So those are all of the plants in my living room. Let's go into my downstairs bedroom, which has an east facing window. So coming into my downstairs bedroom, this is a huge bright east facing window. Right up here, we have another pothos that I got from the plant store. I got it at the same time I got the pothos on top of the cabinet. Once again, I am into buying more mature plants. You can see how big and how massive this pothos is, and I just put it right on top of this shelf. This right here is a type of prayer plant. I will put the actual name on the screen. This one has the most velvety of leaves. It just feels so soft, but this one is one that needs a lot of humidity. You can obviously see that it has some browning on the edges of the leaves. This leaf is on its way out. That's why it is so yellow, but it's always pushing new growth for me. This is a new leaf right here, and it just has the softest, most velvety leaves. On the underside is a purpley color. So it's just a very beautiful plant. I got it for my birthday. I would not recommend it if you are a new plant owner, just because look how kind of drabby the ends of the leaves look, and that is kind of the only reason why I'm keeping it, is just because it was a birthday present. But I mean, like I said, it is always pushing new leaves. The leaves curl up when it needs water. I will say that this is more of an advanced type of plant to have. Down here, you can see I have some empty candle holders. This is where the trio of pothos plants used to be, and I got rid of them. I had these plants in here for years, and I ended up just tossing them outside just because, once again, I am over the tiny little plant craze. I'm just not into it anymore. So I got rid of them, and this is just gonna stay empty. Down here, I have this trio of plants. This is a pothos. This is a Monstera Adansonii. I have the mother plant upstairs, so when we get upstairs, I'll talk more about the Monstera Adansonii. This is another type of pothos. This is the POTHOS N JOY. It could be a Pros and J, but I'll clarify on the screen. You can see the beautiful variegation in the leaves right here. I don't know, this is a plant that might be on its way out. It's honestly doing nothing. It looks the exact same almost every day. The only reason why I'm keeping it right here is because it goes with these trio of plants, but I do have one at work that is like vining like crazy. This one just doesn't grow. Like, I water it, I take care of it. It's right next to an east facing window. I don't know what's going on with her. Over here, we have our fiddle leaf fig. This one is another highly contested, highly sought after houseplant. I would not recommend this plant if you are just getting into houseplants, and honestly, I am terrified of it. I got this plant for my birthday back in April, and it has almost doubled in size. The only reason why it's done that is because I haven't done anything to it. This is not even potted into this actual pot. I kept it in the nursery pot, put it in this terracotta pot, and then I just covered it with dirt. I am so scared to move it. I'm so scared to touch it. I'm so scared to even look at it. I literally just water it once a week. I put it directly in front of this window. I saw that it was growing, and then I just left it alone. I feel like if I even breathe on it, it might die. Like, I'm so afraid to die. I'm so afraid for it to die that honestly, I'm just like, okay, don't look at me. I'm not looking at you. Honestly, I am so afraid to kill this plant that I'm just letting it do its thing. I'm so afraid to move it because everybody's like, I know a lot of people say the second that you move this plant or adjust this plant to a different area in your house that it could possibly die. So it's just going to stay here for life. Honestly, I'm too afraid to move it. I have a philodendron right here on this shelf, and I have another philodendron hanging up over here in front of this east facing window. So those are all of the plants downstairs. So let's head upstairs. So moving upstairs into our loft area, this is a north facing window. So in front of this north facing window, we have another pothos plant hanging on the wall. And this is a newer plant down here that I just got. This is a Schefflera plant, or an umbrella plant. I got this from Walmart for only about $7. Now, this plant definitely started to lose a lot of leaves when I first brought it home, just because it was trying to adjust to its space. And that is typical for a Schefflera plant. Now, this one has just pushed out some new growth. This is a new leaf. You can see this baby little leaf right here. This one is also a new leaf. I love the variegation on the leaves. I think this one is one plant that you may need to water a little bit more often than your other plants, but my grandfather actually has this plant at his home, and it is growing almost into a tree at this point. So I'm super excited for this one to take over this space. You can see the newer leaves have almost like a lime colored neon green coloring with the dark leaves. And then the more mature leaves have more of a cream coloring on them. These planter boxes are one of the best parts of the home. I think that this is one of my favorite parts. And these planter boxes came with the house. I don't know if any other owners of this home actually put plants up here, but I definitely took advantage of it. The only light that these planter boxes get is this north facing window right here. So I couldn't really put a plant that needs a ton of light, but I have a ton of pothos plants in here. These are a couple pothos plants that I got from Walmart. This is a snow queen pothos. This is a snake plant. This is another pothos. This is a syngonium or arrowhead plant. And I don't know, she's about to be on her way out. She hasn't really grown as much. These are known to vine and trail down, so I thought it would be good to put it up here, but she is constantly dying. I don't know. I may have to take her out of the situation and put her into a higher light situation. I just don't know. It's always just having these little crispy little leaves, so she might be on her way out. This is another pothos. I just love how luscious and green these leaves look. They just look so healthy. One more pothos, and then over here on the end is a neon pothos. So the last stop on our tour of the houseplants in our home is the bedroom. So let's head in there. So moving into the bedroom over here on this nightstand, I have our Philodendron Brazil. And this honestly was one of my favorite plants at one point, but I don't know about her. Once again, she is not pushing a lot of growth. This is an east-facing window, so I don't know what's going on. I think maybe it might be a water situation. Like, she's not dying, but she's just not pushing any growth. I think maybe if I put her on a trellis, maybe I might like it a little more. Maybe that might give it something to grow onto, but I don't know. She's just looking a little drab in this corner. Over here, I have my rubber plant. This is a burgundy rubber tree, and this one is absolutely huge and gorgeous. This one has not pushed any growth for me at all since I've gotten it, and I think that's just because of the pot, and I think it's because it actually needs more light. I think this would honestly do better outside, but it hasn't died, so I think it's kind of limping along inside, but being right directly in front of an east-facing window, I'm giving it as much light as I can, and it seems to be fairly happy. Like, I haven't really lost any leaves on it or anything like that, but I do enjoy having such a large plant in our bedroom. Moving over here to this shelf, these are the only small plants that I have in my collection. Right here is a Christmas cactus. This is a cactus that I got for my birthday. They also have a Thanksgiving cactus and an Easter cactus and maybe one more, but you can see they are told apart, but you can see they have these cute little leaves on them. These are actually easy to propagate and they bloom. I think this might be the only time I see it bloom, just because getting a Christmas cactus to bloom again is pretty hard, but after a while the leaves will drop off and I will just be left with these leaves right here. This is a cutting of a marble queen pothos, and this is a cutting of the lemon lime or neon pothos that was outside. Once again, these are only here just because the shelf is pretty small and it's only held up by thumbtacks, honestly. So that is the only reason why these are here. You can see that this Christmas cactus is on this little stand that I got. I think this is super cute. This was from Goodwill, I think, but I don't know. these are on their last little leg. If they don't start growing or trailing down, they might be on their way out. Sorry about it. The very last plant on our tour is right here next to my bedside table. It is the first thing I see when I wake up. It is the Monstera Adansonii. So this Monstera has these beautiful fenestrations in the leaves. It is a great plant if you want something to vine up or crawl onto a trellis. It also is very good for trailing down. And as it gets more mature, the fenestrations and leaves get wider and bigger. I had to have a lot of learning when I first got this plant. One of the plants that I got, I immediately started to take it apart. I started to put it into different pots and I immediately killed it. I just had to limp it along. It wasn't working. I ended up killing it, so I got a new one, and this one is doing way better. It is almost 2 feet from the east-facing window, so it's doing very well. I can tell when it needs water just because these leaves right here will kind of droop down and sag down, so I will just give it some water. You can see that these are standing up on their own, so it is very, very healthy. This is another plant that you may have to check for bugs, for spider mites, or thrips. Sometimes I have seen that these are very prone to bugs. If you look, make sure you check on the underside of the leaves as well. All of my plants are pretty clean right now. I haven't had a problem with an infestation in a while, so I'm hoping to keep it that way. So just like that, that is the end of our houseplant tour, but don't worry, I will come back each season and update you guys on all of the houseplants that I have in my care. If you're interested in learning more about the houseplants that I have or any other future videos, make sure you comment that down below so I can see it. I post new videos every single Wednesday, so I will see you guys next week. Bye.